Hello and welcome back to Liftoff, where we provide the most recent news about Elon Musk and his companies. On August 3rd, the Australian Space Agency confirmed that 3 large chunks of space debris crash-landed into Australian sheep farms and belongs to SpaceX. The space junk that was found embedded in farmlands in the New South Wales Snowy Mountains region came from a part of a SpaceX Crew-1 Dragon spacecraft that re-entered the Earth's atmosphere. On July 9th, the locals reported hearing a loud sonic boom and seeing a blazing light arc across the sky. Stay till the end to get acquainted with the potential risks of being struck by debris. Before heading on to the video, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss any of our updates. Space debris refers to equipment in space that no longer works. Space debris usually burns up while re-entering the atmosphere, and the leftover often falls into the ocean. However, with more spaceships entering orbit from private companies like SpaceX, impacts on land may happen more frequently. The first of the debris was a 10-foot-tall chunk that was found by a local sheep farmer, Mick Miners, on his farm south of Jindabyne, according to the Australian Broadcasting Corporation News. Later, his neighbour, Jock Wallace, also discovered a separate chunk nearby. He promptly asked Australia's Civil Aviation Safety Authority about what he should be doing with the space junk, to which they told him to contact NASA. "I'm a farmer from Dalgety. What am I going to say to NASA?" Wallace told Australian Broadcasting Corporation News. The discovered space junk is said to be from the Crew-1 Dragon capsule launched in November of 2020 to take 4 NASA astronauts on a round trip to the International Space Station. The space junk is probably from the unpressurized trunk of the Crew Dragon, which was attached to the spacecraft's lowest side to carry cargo into space and support the craft during its launch. This trunk was mostly stocked with solar panels that provided electricity to the ship during the flight and while it was docked at the ISS. The trunk was discarded intentionally upon its re-entry into the atmosphere to make the Crew Dragon's return to Earth easier. Engineers planned it to hit the ocean, and that too if it manages to get to Earth, but it landed on a farm. Wallace was worried about other possible outcomes, and he said, "I think it's a concern it's just fallen out of the sky. If it landed on your house, it would make a hell of a mess." The debris is the largest recorded space junk to land in Australia, other than the 77-ton Skylab, which was the United States' very first space station. Skylab broke up over the continent during an uncontrolled re-entry over Western Australia in 1979. The NASA space station had been uncrewed for several years before increasing solar activity unexpectedly ballooned Earth's atmosphere, increasing the drag on Skylab. The space agency did its best to steer Skylab to unpopulated areas. Known debris from the incident includes an oxygen tank, a hatch, and even a storage freezer. Article 7 of the 1967 Outer Space Treaty states that any country that sends an object into space is internationally liable for the damage it may cause to another party when it comes crashing back to Earth. Either diplomatic channels handle these type of incidents, or they are processed in a claims commission. Did you know that the USSR paid 3 million Canadian dollars to Canada as compensation for their loss? In 1978, the malfunctioning Soviet satellite Cosmos 954 crashed into Western Canada, spraying a roughly 370-mile-long path with debris from its broken onboard nuclear reactor. An astrophysicist at the Center for Astrophysics in Cambridge, Massachusetts, Jonathan McDowell, said that it is not unusual for space debris to be found on land after an uncontrolled re-entry. Dr. McDowell said that it was surprising for him that a lot of trunks survived the heating process of re-entry. He said that there was nothing particularly risky about the trunk, but in this modern era of space exploration, it is much harder to get technical information from private companies to assess risk. Debris from a large Chinese rocket re-entered Earth's atmosphere over the Indian Ocean last week, and the administrator of NASA, Bill Nelson, was unhappy because China did not share specific trajectory information as their Long March 5B rocket fell back to Earth. He said that all countries must share this kind of information in advance so that the potential debris impact risk can be predicted. People around the world kept on tracking its trajectory for days due to the possibility that debris from the rocket could have struck a populated area. This was the third flight of China's largest rocket, Long March 5B, and it made an uncontrolled re-entry back to Earth. In 2021, due to a malfunction, a SpaceX rocket stage completed an uncontrolled re-entry into Earth's atmosphere near Seattle. It seemed to be bright objects lighting up the night sky. Several pieces of the burning rocket debris landed on a farmer's property in Washington state. The debris had re-entered the atmosphere after 22 days in orbit. A neighbor of Mick Miner's, Jock Wallace, also reported a similar foreign object that fell onto his land. Luckily, the space debris, which came from one of the craft's fins, was located far away from their homes, and after investigation, Australian National University space expert Brad Tucker was called by authorities to inspect the object on Mick Miner's property. He confirmed that the space junk found on Mick Miner's property was a part of the SpaceX Crew-1 trunk. He said that SpaceX has a capsule that takes humans into space, and it has a bottom part that the astronauts leave in space before the capsule lands. The Australian Space Agency also confirmed that the space junk belongs to SpaceX and that they are continuously engaging with the United States regarding the junk. The agency is operating under the Australian Government Space Re-entry Debris Plan, which outlines roles and responsibilities for key Australian government agencies and committees in supporting response to space re-entry debris, the Australian Space Agency said. The spacecraft cost $62 million per launch, and it started to deorbit after staying in space for almost 2 years. Tucker stated that the craft was originally planned to destroy and land in the ocean. He specified that they saw most of the pieces landing in the ocean, but apparently some parts did not make it because this 3-meter piece was speared in the ground from space. Are you wondering what it took so long to discover these pieces of space junk? The pieces landed on farms that span hundreds of acres, and it looks like an old burnt tree stump from a distance. You can't discover it until you get close enough to realize that there's something off about it. Both of the farmers, Mick and Wallace, thought that it had been there for a few weeks based on the last time they would have gone by. Tucker found a part number on one of the pieces and asked SpaceX to confirm whether it matches the trunk. He was stunned to look at the manufacturing. It had visible scorching marks from re-entry. The United States, along with several other international space agencies, trains to deal with space debris, with the Americans following government-created orbital debris mitigation standard practices. If the Dalgety debris is confirmed by SpaceX, this won't be the first time that a large chunk of their hardware fell to Earth. A SpaceX launch in April of 2021 resulted in debris showing up on a farm in central Washington. At that time, it was linked to the second stage of a Falcon 9 rocket. Debris from this launch was confirmed as SpaceX generated by the Grant County Sheriff's Office, as SpaceX didn't respond to requests for comment. Space agencies mainly plan the trajectories of their rockets so that any potential debris would either burn up in the atmosphere or land in the ocean. But the increasing pace of space activity has put Earth's population at risk of being struck by debris from uncontrolled re-entries. Moreover, several researchers even mentioned in a paper published in the journal Nature Astronomy that there is a 10% chance of human death from falling rocket junk over the next decade. They also added the information that approximately 70% of all rocket bodies had fallen to Earth in an uncontrolled re-entry over the last 30 years. Do tell us your views in the comment section about how space agencies should tackle the problem of space debris. And if you've reached this far, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and press the notification bell so you don't miss any future updates. I'll see you in another video. Until then, take care.